The morning my sister-in-law walked out of my house, she left behind an empty chair, a half-finished cup of tea, and the silence that told me she'd taken more than just her luggage. I remember that moment so clearly it still makes my fingertips tremble. The chair was pushed back just slightly, as if she had stood up in a hurry. The tea had gone cold, a thin film forming on top. My daughter's school backpack sat on the sofa, unzipped, books spilling out. Outside, the neighbor's rooster crowed a second time, but even the sound felt distant, like it knew something wasn't right. I didn't know then, not fully, that she had taken my daughter's school fee money with her. I didn't know she had walked out on all of us. All I knew was that the quiet in my living room felt heavy, like someone had closed the door I hadn't heard. Let me take you back a bit so you understand why her disappearance cut so deeply. My name is Christine, and for most of my life, I've tried to make peace the same way some people make breakfast. Early, often, and with my hands shaking just a little. I grew up knowing that family was all we really had. So when my brother's wife, Amina, asked if she could stay with us just for a few weeks while she sorted out her job situation, I didn't hesitate. I should have. But back then, everything felt normal. My home was small but warm. The walls were painted honey yellow. My daughter Livvy picked that color when she was 8. She said it looks like sunshine. Even now, every time the morning sun hit those walls, the house felt like it was glowing. I worked part-time as a clerk at a local office. My salary wasn't much, but it covered food, electricity, and most importantly, Livvy's education. My husband left us years ago, long before this story really begins, so it had always been just the two of us. I didn't mind. In fact, I came to love our quiet routines. Breakfast at 6:45, Livvy leaves at 7:10, I work from 8 to 2:30, dinner by 7, homework talks, small jokes, sometimes tears about boys or math teachers, the usual things. Life wasn't perfect, but it was ours. Then my sister-in-law moved in. Amina was complicated. A beautiful woman, sharply beautiful, with cheekbones that cast shadows and a voice that carried even when she whispered. She was the type who walked into a room and rearranged it just by being there. At first, she brought energy into our home. She helped with cooking, did Livvy's braids before school, told funny stories about her old office job. I remember thinking, maybe this will be good for us. Maybe she'll brighten the house a bit. But some people shine only when you aren't looking too closely. Amina had lost her job 2 months before, or at least that's what she told us. My brother, Michael, worked construction out of town, so he asked if she could stay with me until she figured things out. Only for a short while, he said. I agreed because family is family, or so I believed. And at the beginning, everything felt okay. The extra pair of hands in the house was helpful. Livvy liked having another woman around, someone younger, someone more stylish, someone who taught her how to draw eyeliner wings with a pencil. I watched them giggle in the hallway mirror, and instead of feeling jealous or threatened, I felt relieved. Maybe it wasn't so bad having another presence around. But looking back, the first cracks had already begun forming. Small things went missing. A bottle of perfume, some cash from my handbag, leftover snacks I planned to pack for lunch. I brushed them off. Maybe I misplaced them. Maybe I forgot I used the money. Life is busy. It's easy to forget small things. Later, I realized I had been forgetting nothing. But at the time, nothing seemed worth questioning. Amina had a habit of staying on the phone late at night, whispering hurriedly in the living room. Sometimes I'd hear her voice rise, sharp with frustration or sweetness too sugary to be real. I asked her once who she kept talking to. A recruiter. They keep changing interview times. Stressful, you know? I nodded. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. Then came the school fees. Livvy was entering her final year of junior secondary. Her school wasn't cheap, but it was the best option we could manage. Disciplined teachers, strong academics, safe environment. I saved for that school like some people save for surgery. Every little bit mattered. I had finally gathered enough, 3 months of savings, tucked neatly into a small brown envelope labeled Education Fund. I hid it in my wardrobe behind folded sweaters. I didn't tell anyone except Livvy, who hugged me tight when I showed her. "Thank you, Mama. I'll make you proud." I believed her. I always have. The fees were due at the end of the month, still 2 weeks away. I told myself I'd take the envelope to the school office after payday. And then, 2 days later, Amina asked for help. She came into the kitchen with her hands wringing the ends of her shawl, eyes glassy like she'd been crying. She said, "Christine, I need a favor." My first instinct was to comfort her. "What's wrong? Are you sick?" She shook her head. "No, I have a job interview tomorrow, a real one, but I need transport money to get across town. Please, just a small amount. I'll pay you back." She cracked so softly I felt it in my bones. I looked at her. I looked at my daughter who was sitting at the table peeling her orange. I looked at the bills on the counter. I told her yes. Just a small amount, I told myself. She thanked me as if I had handed her life itself. She hugged me, held on longer than expected. I felt guilty for even hesitating. If only I had known, because that was the day the first real shadow entered my home. And it wouldn't be long before the lights went out altogether.
I didn't think much of lending Amina the transport money. In our culture, when someone in your home asks for help, you help. That's what family's supposed to mean. So I gave her enough for the journey, not too much, not too little, just enough to get her where she needed to go. The next morning, she left before sunrise. I heard the soft click of the front door around 5:30 a.m. She didn't say goodbye, didn't leave a note, but I assumed she didn't want to wake us. I thought nothing of it. But by noon, when I returned from work early because our supervisor dismissed us for a power outage, I found her sitting on the couch, still wearing the same clothes from the night before. Makeup smudged, eyes tired. She didn't look like someone who had just returned from an interview. "Hey," I said softly, placing my bag by the door. "How did it go? You got back early." She lifted her head, startled, as if she didn't expect me home. Her eyes darted to the clock, then back to me. "Oh, she cleared her throat. "It got postponed. The woman who was supposed to interview me had an emergency." My eyebrows raised slightly. "Again?" Amina gave a weak smile. "These companies, they keep wasting my time." I could have pressed further. Something inside me told me to, but I didn't. I didn't want to seem distrustful. I didn't want to embarrass her. So I simply nodded, warmed up lunch, and tried to escape the uncomfortable silence sitting between us. It was the first hint, the first whisper from the universe that something was off. The second hint came 3 days later. I had returned home from work to find Amina going through one of the cabinets in my bedroom. She jumped when I walked in. "Oh, sorry," she forced a laugh. "I was looking for the mop bucket. I thought maybe you kept it in here." I stared at her. The mop bucket had never lived anywhere but the back of the kitchen. "Okay," I said quietly, letting her explanation sit there. "But next time, you can ask me." She nodded rapidly, too rapidly. Of course, sorry." She rushed out of the room before I could say more. My heart fluttered uneasily. The cabinets she had been searching through were nowhere near where I kept cleaning supplies. They were the ones where I kept our important documents, birth certificates, insurance cards, old report cards, and also, yes, the envelope with Livvy's school fees. That envelope. I didn't check it that day. Part of me didn't want to. Part of me clung to the belief that everything was fine, that I had simply walked into a misunderstanding. I was still trying to protect her image in my mind, the sister-in-law who braided my daughter's hair, who cooked rice with coconut cream, who seemed to genuinely care for us. People aren't always who they appear to be. Then came the third hint, and this one I couldn't ignore. One evening, as I was washing dishes, Amina received a phone call. She usually walked outside to take her late-night calls, but this time she stayed in the living room. I overheard fragments through the open doorway. Not enough to understand everything, but enough to feel something crawl up my spine. No, I told you already. I'm trying my best. You think I enjoy living here? No, the money's not ready yet. I said I'm handling it. There was a pause. Then her voice softened into something almost pleading. Just give me a little more time. I froze, with my hands still submerged in sudsy water. Money? Not ready yet? Who was she talking to? When she hung up, she didn't know I had heard anything. She came into the kitchen to grab a glass of water. Her steps were quick, impatient. I glanced at her but said nothing. She didn't look at me either. Her hands shook slightly as she held the glass. You okay? I asked gently. Yes, she said too quickly. Her voice had a brittle edge. She took a sip, set the glass down, and walked away before I could ask more. I felt a coldness settle in my stomach. That night, sleep came slowly. My mind kept replaying that phone call, the tone, the urgency, the fear. She had debts, or she owed someone money, or she promised someone money. Something was wrong. And when something is wrong in a small home, the walls hear it before anyone else. But nothing prepared me for the fourth sign. The sign that ripped away every illusion I still held. It was a Saturday morning. I was sweeping under the dining table when I noticed a small folded slip of paper under one of the chair legs. I thought it might be one of Livvy's homework notes. But when I opened it, my breath caught in my throat. It wasn't homework. It was a withdrawal slip from my bank. My eyes scanned it again and again, hoping somehow I was reading it wrong. It had my name, my account number, my signature, copied, forged, practiced, and the exact amount of Livvy's school fees. Taken out 2 days before. My hands trembled. The broom fell from my fingers, clattering loudly against the tiles. The sound echoed in my ears like a warning siren. I pressed the withdrawal slip to my chest, as if holding it closer would make the truth softer. It didn't. I walked straight to my wardrobe, tears already gathering in my eyes. I reached behind the sweaters, feeling the familiar roughness of the envelope, except it wasn't there. My heart sank. I knelt down, checking again, pulling out every sweater, every blouse, every box. Nothing. Just an empty space where months of sacrifice used to be. I stood up slowly, the room blurring. My hands were cold, my breath came shallow. It felt like someone had reached inside me and pulled out something vital. Amina, I whispered. Her name tasted bitter on my tongue. All the hints, all the signs, all the ignored warnings, they lined up suddenly, forming a picture so clear it made me dizzy. The interview lies, the late night whispering, the rummaging through my cabinet, the phone call, and now the school fees. She had taken them. My daughter's future, my hard-earned savings, my trust. And suddenly, my home, my warm yellow home, didn't feel safe anymore. It felt violated, broken. Amina was in the kitchen, humming softly as she prepared breakfast, as if nothing was wrong, as if she hadn't just ripped a piece of my world apart. I stood in the hallway, staring at her silhouette, the withdrawal slip in my trembling hand, and for the first time since she entered my home, I saw her clearly. Not as my sister-in-law, but as a stranger wearing a mask. A stranger who had just stolen from me. Amina stood at the stove, humming a tune I didn't recognize. It was soft, almost sweet, the kind of humming a person does when their spirit is calm. But my spirit was not calm. I watched her from the hallway, my pulse hammering in my ears. My hand clenched the withdrawal slip so tightly it wrinkled into the shape of my fear. She flipped a chapati in the pan and sprinkled a little flour on the counter. Her movements were casual, familiar. She didn't look like a thief. She didn't look like someone who had just stolen the future of a child. But that's the thing about betrayal. It never looks like what you expect. I stepped into the kitchen. Amina? She turned around with a smile, a wide one, too wide. Oh, good morning. Breakfast is almost, where is the money? She froze. Her smile faded slowly, like the dimming of a lamp during a blackout. Then she blinked, confused. Money? Which money? I held up the withdrawal slip. Her eyes darted to it, then away. She swallowed hard. I don't know what that is. Stop. My voice surprised me, firm, unwavering. Don't insult me. Amina's hands trembled. She leaned against the counter, looking everywhere except at me. You went into my cabinet. You took the envelope with Livvy's school fees, and you forged my signature. She closed her eyes, exhaling slowly. Her shoulders slumped as if a heavy weight finally pinned her down. She wiped her eyes quickly with the back of her hand. I didn't want you to find out. I didn't want you to find out. Amina, how could you? How could you take from your own niece? She wiped her eyes quickly with the back of her hand. It's not what you think. I think you stole, I said, my voice cracking. From me, from a child. She shook her head weakly. It wasn't for me. Then who? Silence. Her fingers fidgeted with the hem of her shirt, twisting it until the seams strained. Amina, I said again, quieter this time, look at me. She didn't. Look at me. Finally, she lifted her gaze. Tears clung to the corners of her eyes. It was for someone else, someone who needed it. My stomach sank. Who? She hesitated, too long. Don't lie, I warned. I overheard your phone call. Her face paled instantly. You said, the money's not ready yet. You told them you were trying your best, that you don't enjoy living here. Amina pressed a trembling hand over her mouth, shocked that I had heard so much. So tell me, I said, stepping closer, who has you like this? When she finally answered,
Her voice broke. I owe people. Bad people. My breath caught. What kind of debt? I whispered. She shook her head helplessly. I don't know what to call it. It started with a small loan, just a little, for a business idea that failed. Then the interest, it kept growing. They keep calling, threatening. They said if I didn't pay something soon. She closed her eyes and pressed her forehead. I was desperate. I didn't know what else to do. I thought I could replace it before school starts. I just needed to buy time. My mouth fell open, disbelief and anger wrestling inside me. Buy time with my child's future? With my trust? I asked quietly. I didn't mean harm. That's what makes it worse. You acted like you cared. You braided her hair. You hugged her. You slept under my roof, all while planning this. Amina broke then. The tears streamed freely, dripping onto her hands as she tried to hide her face. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I'm so sorry. Please don't throw me out. If they find me alone. She didn't finish. She didn't have to. I felt a strange conflict rising within me. Fear, anger, pity, and an unwelcome thread of sympathy. But Amina, I said softly, you should have told me. You would have judged me. I would have helped you, I snapped. But not like this. Not with lies. Not with stealing. She collapsed onto the kitchen chair, staring at the floor as if it held all her sins. I didn't think you had the money to help, she murmured. You're always saving every coin, always budgeting. I didn't want to add my problems to your already heavy life. My eyes burned. So you chose to make it heavier behind my back. She covered her face again. I stared at her for a long moment. This woman who had walked into my home carrying secrets like luggage. This woman who, without warning, had cracked open the peace I'd worked so hard to maintain. I felt raw, torn between anger and an empathy I didn't want to feel. Where is the rest of the money? I asked. Her shoulders shook. Gone. The word hit me like a slap. All of it? She nodded. I steadied myself against the counter, breath trembling. My knees felt weak. Lebby's school fees, months of saving, gone. The room felt colder, as if betrayal had seeped into the walls. Amina lifted her head, tears streaking down her cheeks. I'll pay you back, I swear. I just need time. Time. The very thing she stole from me. Time I no longer had before the school term. No, I said firmly, surprising myself again. You won't pay me back. You can't. Not right now. Not in the state you're in. She looked confused. Then what do you want me to do? I inhaled deeply. You're going to tell me everything. The truth. No hiding, no lies, all of it. Because if you're in danger, then so am I. So is my daughter. Amina's eyes widened with fear. I leaned in, lowering my voice. And after that, I continued, you're going to pack your things. Her breath caught. You're sending me away? Not forever. But you can't stay here tonight. Not when people are threatening you. Not when you've made me a target without my knowledge. Amina broke then. The tears streamed freely, dripping onto her hands as she tried to hide her face. I trusted you, I said softly, and you broke that. I need to protect my daughter, even from you. She nodded weakly, defeated, ashamed. I turned away, pressing my palms against the counter to stop my hands from shaking. I didn't want this. I didn't want to become the kind of person who has to be suspicious in her own home. But betrayal changes you. It hardens something. It strips something. And as I stood there in the kitchen, listening to Amina's quiet sobs, I realized something painful. This was not the end of our problems. It was only the beginning.
Amina didn't pack immediately. She sat hunched at the kitchen table, her fingers tangled in her hair, breathing in short, ragged bursts. She looked like a child who had broken something precious and didn't know how to fix it. I stepped into the living room, my thoughts spinning. Livvy played on the floor with her dolls, innocent, oblivious. She hummed to herself, softly, the same tune she always used when she was happy. The sound twisted my heart into a painful knot. I sat down beside her, brushing a hand over her curls. "Mama, can Auntie Amina help me plait my doll's hair later?" she asked, eyes bright. My throat tightened. "Maybe not today, sweetheart." "Why?" Her forehead wrinkled. I forced a small smile. "Auntie has some things she needs to take care of." Livvy nodded slowly, accepting the half-truth because she trusted me completely. Her trust felt like a weight on my chest. I needed to protect her from the world, from trouble, and now from family. When she returned to her play, I walked back to the kitchen. Amina was wiping her eyes with a tissue, her face red and swollen. "Tell me everything," I said quietly. "Start from the beginning." And she did. Not all at once, not smoothly. The story stumbled out of her in broken pieces. She told me about a man she had dated 2 years ago, a charming one, with a business idea he persuaded her to invest in. She had borrowed a small amount from a local lending group, one of those informal ones that promise quick cash and quicker trouble. The boyfriend disappeared. The debt did not. The interest ballooned. She fell behind. And the lenders, a group of 3 men, began showing up at her workplace, at her old apartment, calling her at night. The tone grew darker each time. She lost her job out of fear and shame. "When I moved in with you," she said through tears, "I thought I could plan things quietly, find a small job, pay small amounts until I caught up. But they started calling again. They said the balance had doubled, then tripled. I panicked." "So you took the money," I whispered. "I didn't want to," she insisted. "But they said they'd come. They said they knew I was staying with a relative. I was scared they'd show up here. I thought if I just paid something, they'd leave me alone." "And did they?" I asked. Amina shook her head. "No. They want more." My stomach twisted. "How much more?" She hesitated. 200,000. I blinked. "What?" She winced as if I had slapped her. "The interest, That's not interest," I cut in, my voice rising despite myself. "That's extortion." She nodded helplessly. "This is why," she whispered. "I didn't want you to know. I've brought danger. I know I have." Silence bleeded into the room, thick and heavy. I pressed my fingertips to my temples. "Amina, what were you thinking? You should have told someone, anyone." "She thought I could handle it," she said weakly. "I always think I can handle things. I never wanted to be a burden." "But look at what it's cost," I murmured. She cried again, soft, broken sobs, the kind that come from a place deeper than guilt. I almost pitied her. Almost. But then I remembered the empty envelope, the forged signature, the trust she borrowed and never intended to repay. "Amina," I said gently but firmly, "you can't sleep here tonight." She inhaled sharply. "Please." "I have a child," I reminded her. "And you said these men know where we live. I can't risk them showing up here. Not for one more night." She nodded slowly, tears falling silently. "I'll go," she whispered. "Thank you for letting me stay at all." I didn't respond. Instead, I walked to my room to gather myself. She packed quietly, a small bag, mostly clothes, slipping in hurriedly folded pieces. She moved like someone carrying shame in her pockets. Just as she zipped the bag, there was a knock at the door. A sharp knock, 3 times. I froze. Amina's eyes widened in terror. "No," she whispered. I stepped toward the living room. "Who is that?" Her voice trembled. It might be them. My blood went cold. Another knock, harder this time. "Livvy!" looked up from her dolls. "Mama? Who's there?" I forced a steady voice. "Stay in your room, baby. Close the door." She obeyed, sensing something in my tone that children understand better than words. The knock came again. "Amina," I hissed. "Go to the bedroom, now." She backed up, shaking. "What will you do?" "I'll talk. But you won't be standing here when I open that door." She hurried down the hallway, closing the bedroom door softly, but not fully, leaving a thin crack through which I knew she was listening. My heartbeat thundered. I approached the door slowly. Each step felt like wading through water. "Who is it?" I called out. A deep male voice answered, "Delivery." Delivery? At 8:30 in the evening? My hand hovered over the lock. Something wasn't right. "Delivery for who?" I asked. A pause. Then, "For Amina." The way he said her name, stretched, testing the weight of it, made my skin crawl. "I don't accept deliveries for people who don't live here," I said firmly. Another knock, this time impatient. "Open the door, madam." "No." Silence. Then the same deep voice lowered into a tone that felt like a threat wrapped in honey. "Tell her to come talk to us." Every nerve in my body fired at once. My palms grew damp, my knees weak. I didn't answer. The man knocked again, slow and deliberate. "We know she's inside." I backed away from the door. There was no peephole, no way to see them. My mind raced. 3 men? 1? Were they alone? Armed? Another knock. "We don't want trouble. We just want our money." My breath shook. I called out, "She's not here." A low chuckle came from outside. "Madam, don't lie. Her name is on the list." "What list?" I swallowed hard. "Leave before I call the police." Silence. Then the footsteps, retreating. I didn't breathe until they were gone. I waited another full minute before whispering, "Amina." She emerged, pale as flour. "You see," she whispered shakily, "they're serious." "I didn't tell you it was this bad. You brought danger to my home." "I didn't want this," she sobbed. "I swear I didn't." I exhaled shakily. My hands were trembling so badly I had to grip the back of a chair. "Amina," I said, "you have to go tonight." Her voice broke. "Where will I go?" I said, "Somewhere they won't follow you. I'll pay for a motel for a few nights. I'll call your older brother or your cousin. Someone must help you. But you cannot stay here. Not with my child sleeping in the next room." Amina nodded slowly, wiping tears with the back of her hand. "I understand," she whispered. We walked outside together, both of us glancing nervously up and down the quiet road. The night felt thicker than usual. The shadows too deep. I called a motorcycle taxi and watched her climb on, her small bag slung over her shoulder. Before the rider pulled away, she looked back at me. "I'm sorry," she mouthed. I didn't answer.
I watched the bike disappear into the darkness. When I finally locked the gate and stepped back inside my home, something shifted in me. The safety I once felt, that invisible blanket every mother keeps wrapped around her child, it had been lifted, snatched away by the very person I tried to help. The house felt strange, lighter and heavier at the same time. I leaned against the door, exhaling a breath I didn't know I was holding. This wasn't the end. The men now knew my address, and Amina, with her debt and her desperate choices, had left behind more than just an empty room. She had left danger lingering in the shadows.
For the next 2 days, the house felt unnervingly quiet. Too quiet. Every small sound, a car passing outside, someone closing a gate down the street, made my heart jolt. I found myself checking the door locks twice, sometimes 3 times. I kept the curtains drawn even during the day. Livvy sensed the shift, even though I never said a word to her about what had happened. "Mama, why is the curtain always closed now?" she asked once, her small hand tugging at the edge of the fabric. "It's hot today," I lied gently. "It keeps the room cooler." She didn't look convinced, but she didn't argue. I tried to resume normal life. I cooked, I cleaned, I went to work, but the feeling of being watched lingered around me like a shadow stitched to my skin. Amina hadn't called, not once. Part of me was relieved. Part of me worried I would get a call from a strange number saying she'd been hurt, but deep down, beneath all the fear and anger, something else simmered, a heavy disappointment I couldn't shake. Family wasn't supposed to leave you to clean up their messes. Family wasn't supposed to run. On the 3rd morning, something strange happened. I stepped outside at dawn to sweep the compound, a habit that always cleared my mind, and there, leaning against my front gate, was an envelope. A plain brown envelope. My stomach sunk. The world went quiet. For a moment, I couldn't move. My feet felt rooted to the ground. I looked around, up the road, down the road. Nothing. No one. Lingering, no unfamiliar cars, no footsteps, but someone had been here, and early. With trembling fingers, I picked up the envelope. It was sealed, but light. Too light. I didn't open it until I was safely inside with the door locked. Livvy was still asleep. My hand shook as I tore it open. Inside was a single piece of paper, neatly folded. No name, no signature, just 6 words. "Tell Amina to pay her debt." And below those 6 words, a phone number. Nothing else. I stared at the note for a long time, feeling something icy spread through my chest. They were escalating, and now they were involving me. I folded the note and placed it inside the kitchen drawer. I didn't want it lying around where Livvy might accidentally find it. I sat down, exhaling slowly. I hadn't done anything wrong, yet somehow I was now tangled in a mess I didn't create. Fear sat heavy on my shoulders, but beneath it, something else began to burn. Anger. How dare they? How dare they come to my home, leave a threat where my child sleeps? No debt justified this. No mistake gave someone the right to terrorize a family. I picked up my phone and called Amina. It rang 3 times, then 6, then went to voicemail. I tried again and again. Nothing. The silence grew louder than the fear. At work that day, my mind was miles away. I made mistakes, small ones, but ones I never made before. When a colleague joked that I seemed haunted, I forced a laugh, but the comment stayed with me. Haunted. Yes, that was the word. During lunch, I stepped outside and dialed the number from the note. It rang once, then clicked. A man's voice came through, low and controlled. "Hello." I swallowed hard. "You left a note at my house." A pause. "Ah, you're Amina's relative." "I'm her sister-in-law, and you had no right coming to my home." "You're right," he said, surprisingly calm. "But she's hiding, and we need our money." "She doesn't live with me anymore," I said.
keeping my voice steady. "She hasn't been here for days." "We know," he said. My blood ran cold. "What do you mean, you know?" "We watched. She left with a bag. She went to the junction. After that, she disappeared." I felt the ground tilt. "So why leave a note for me?" "Because she's your family," he said simply, "and family helps family." I clenched my jaw. "This is not my debt." "No," he agreed, "but it's now your problem." His tone stayed disturbingly casual, like he was discussing the weather, not threatening my family. "This conversation is over," I said, trying to sound braver than I felt. Before I could end the call, he added softly, "By the way, your daughter is beautiful, the one who plays outside in the blue uniform." My heart stopped. A sound left my throat, something between a gasp and a cry. "Don't test us," he continued. "Tell Amina to pay, or we'll keep coming back." The line went dead. My fingers went numb, my vision blurred. I dropped my phone, letting it hit the ground. My daughter. They mentioned my daughter. This was no longer about Amina. This was about keeping Livvy safe. That evening, after locking the doors and windows, I sat on the couch, staring at nothing. For a long time, I didn't move. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, thinking. If they knew about Livvy, if they had been watching my home, then leaving things alone was no longer an option. I pulled out the envelope from the drawer and stared at the 6 words again. "Tell Amina to pay her debt." My jaw tightened. No. Amina's debt was hers, but the threat, the intrusion, the fear they brought to my doorstep, that was mine to deal with. Because if I didn't protect my daughter, nobody else would. I picked up my phone and dialed someone I hadn't spoken to in months, my brother, Peter. Peter was not the gentle, quiet type. He was the show up at midnight if you call type, the type who didn't back down from intimidation. He answered on the second ring. "Sis?" Hearing his voice almost made me cry. "Peter, I need help." His tone sharpened instantly. "Where are you? Are you safe?" I exhaled shakily. "Not completely." "Talk to me," he said. "Start from the beginning." So I did, and as I spoke, as I recounted the knocks, the threats, the call, I felt something shift inside me. Fear was still there, but now it had a partner, resolve. Peter listened quietly, and when I finished, he exhaled hard. "Sis, this is not something you keep quiet. This is serious." "I know." "We're not letting this continue," he said firmly. "I'm coming tomorrow, early, and we'll handle it." "How?" "Don't worry about the how. Just keep you about her close tonight." I closed my eyes. For the first time in days, I felt a sliver, just a sliver, of safety. But deep down, I knew tomorrow would change everything. Because once family got involved, this wouldn't stay quiet. It wouldn't stay simple. And the men who knocked on my door, they had no idea what was coming.
Peter arrived at my gate before sunrise. I heard the rumble of his old pickup truck before I saw him, the same beat-up blue one he had driven since university. The engine always made a grumbling sound, like it was bothered to be awake so early. I stepped outside, wrapping my shawl tightly around my shoulders. Peter climbed out of the truck quickly, his face set in a firm, unreadable expression. He had that look he used to carry back in school, the kind that made bullies turn the other way. He hugged me before anything else, a long, tight embrace that made something inside me almost unravel. "You okay?" he murmured over my shoulder. I took a shaky breath. "I am now." He pulled back and looked at me with those sharp older brother eyes. "Where's Livvy?" "Still sleeping." "Good," he nodded. "Let's talk inside." We sat at the dining table, the same place Amina had sat crying days before, but the energy was completely different now. I told him everything again, in more detail this time. The men, the knock, the voice on the phone, the way he mentioned my daughter. Peter leaned back slowly, his jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscle twitch. When I finished, he muttered, "They stepped on the wrong Nick." "Peter," I warned gently, "please don't go looking for trouble." He raised an eyebrow. "Trouble already came here first." "I had just wanted to stop," I said softly. "I want to feel safe in my home again." "You will," he assured me, "but we need to be smart." He drummed his fingers on the table thoughtfully. "First," he said, "we need to contact Amina. She can't run from this forever. I've called her. She's not picking." "She'll pick when I call," he muttered. "She knows better." I almost smiled despite everything. Peter had always had a way of getting Amina to listen. She respected him more than her own siblings most days. He dialed her number. It rang twice. She answered, just like that. "Hello?" Amina's voice was small, strained. Peter didn't waste time. "Where are you?" No, greeting?" she stammered weakly. "Where are you?" His tone brooked no argument. Silence. Then a trembling reply. "A small lodge near the highway." "You need to come back," Peter said firmly. "Now." "I can't. They're looking for me." "And you think hiding will make them stop?" Peter snapped. "You've dragged people into this. Your sister-in-law is receiving threats. They mentioned her child." Amina gasped sharply. "What? No, I never wanted—" "It's done," Peter cut in. "Now you face it. You're meeting us today." Her breathing grew louder, panicked. "Peter, please. They said I must pay everything. I don't have that kind of money." "We know," he replied bluntly, "but running only makes things worse." "I'm scared," she whispered. "We all are, but you're not alone, unless you choose to be." He ended the call before she could protest again. I exhaled slowly. "Thank you." He nodded. "She'll come. Fear may have her frozen, but she'll come." By mid-morning, Amina showed up at my gate. Her hair was uncombed, her clothes wrinkled, her eyes swollen from crying. She looked exhausted, like someone who had aged years in just a few days. When she stepped into the house, she didn't look at me. Instead, she walked straight to Peter and collapsed to her knees. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I didn't mean for any of this." Peter gently helped her back up. "Sit," he said. "We'll handle this together. But you need to tell us everything, no holding back." And she did. For the first time since this nightmare started, she explained the full truth. Not in pieces, not in excuses, in one long, painful confession. She told us about the debt. The original amount was only $30,000, but when she fell behind, the lenders doubled it and doubled it again. Each time she made a small payment, they increased the balance to trap her deeper. Predators disguised as businessmen. She admitted the boyfriend connection. She admitted hiding their threats for months. She admitted taking the school fees, which she insisted she planned to replace. By the time she finished, the silence in the room was suffocating. Peter leaned forward. "These men are extortionists. What they're doing is illegal, and they're getting bold because they think you're alone." Amina wiped her nose with the back of her hand. "I know." Peter stood. "So here's what we're going to do." We both looked at him. "You're not paying them another kobo," he said firmly. "Not one. Instead, we'll involve the community chairman and the youth leaders and the police if we must." Amina's face drained of color. "Police?" "Yes," Peter said sharply. "This isn't just debt. They're threatening a child." I swallowed hard. The thought of involving police scared me, not because we were wrong, but because in situations like this, things could escalate unexpectedly. Still, something in me relaxed. Maybe this was the right direction. Maybe we needed daylight on this situation. Fear thrives in shadows. Peter continued, "But before any of that, we'll talk to the chairman. He has influence here. If those men are operating in this area, he'll know who they are." Amina nodded weakly. "And if the chairman confronts them?" I asked. Peter shrugged. "Bullies don't like exposure. Once the community is aware, they'll back off." I wasn't entirely convinced, but Peter was right about one thing. We couldn't keep hiding behind locked doors. We had to face this head on, once and for all. The chairman lived 3 streets away. When we arrived at his compound, people were already gathered around under his shade tree, neighbors discussing morning news, children playing, the usual hum of community life. When the chairman saw Peter, he stood. "Ah, my man," he boomed, extending a hand. "Long time." They exchanged greetings, and soon chairs were brought out for all of us. Once we were seated and the chatter died down, Peter explained everything, from Amina's debt to the threats at my home. The chairman's expression grew dark. "Those boys again," he muttered. "Again?" I echoed. He nodded slowly. "They go around pretending to be a lending group, but they are debt predators. They target young women mostly. Once they get you in, they raise the interest to trap you deeper." My chest tightened. "Has anyone stopped them?" "Many have tried," he said grimly. "They disappeared for a while last year after we confronted them, but it seems they're back." Amina looked down, ashamed. The chairman continued, "Let me make some calls." He stepped aside, dialing several numbers, speaking in a firm, clipped tone. Moments later, he returned. "They will come here. I've asked 2 of the youth leaders to wait with us. We'll face them directly, no hiding." Amina froze. "They're coming here?" "Yes," the chairman said simply. Peter placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Relax. This is safer than them showing up at someone's home." I squeezed my fingers together tightly. I wasn't sure I was ready to face them, but I knew this needed to end, once and for all. 15 minutes later, we heard it. A motorcycle engine, then another. 2 bikes pulled up outside the chairman's gate. 3 men climbed off. The same type Amina had described. Hard expressions, expensive sneakers, cheap cologne that hit the air before they even entered. One of them, the tallest one, stepped closer, squinting at Amina. "So you finally come out," he said, almost amused. But then his eyes shifted and landed on me, and he smirked. My stomach twisted. The chairman stood between us. "Enough games," he said. "This ends today." The tall man chuckled. "Chairman, stay out of this." But the youth leader stepped forward. Their presence made the air heavier. The tall man's smile faltered. "Good." For the first time since this nightmare started, I saw something shift. Power. Balance. They weren't in control anymore.